And I started getting these testimonials back. And it was like, I couldn't have told you consciously at the time, but like the penny dropped on a subconscious level. And I realized, like, one lady, she couldn't walk. I can't remember what issue she had with her legs, but it was very difficult for her to walk. Like, her husband had to carry her to the sauna each morning once she got it. 3 months after having the sauna, she's walking again. And then she writes me this letter and she's just climbed like a small hill near where she lives because the circulation's back, you know? Yeah, so I get this story, and then there was another story. A lady was quite literally sent home to die by her doctor. She was diagnosed with polymyalgia rheumatica, which is this like rare inflammatory condition. You end up seizing up, you can't move, and rigor mortis sets in and you slowly die. It's pretty miserable, right? She buys our sauna on a whim. One of her friends had one who had arthritis, and it helped with her arthritis. She's like in her 70s. And 6 months later, all of her pain's gone. She's still alive today, right? So I'm getting these letters back, and something in my mind is tweeting going, oh, like we're actually changing people's lives here.
Welcome back to the Keegan and Company podcast. For those who are new to the show, my name is Keegan Hipgrave. And guys, if you haven't already, could I get you to jump over, give us a little like and subscribe, or whatever platform you listen to this podcast on, whether it's Apple, YouTube, Spotify. It's a great way for us to grow the platform, grow the podcast, and just have some incredible conversations like I'm going to have today. In this episode, I'm joined by the owner of Found Space Saunas, Alex Tyson. How are you, brother?
I'm good, man.
Mate, how you feeling? It's funny, like, every time we do a podcast, usually we either do a sauna before or after the podcast with the guests, and now we're with the guy who has the company. How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling great, man. Not only did we sauna, we had that nice little swim in the ocean, and that was just like perfect.
It's the best.
Yeah,
it's the best, mate. You're obviously a very busy man. I'm grateful that you're joining us today. Of
course,
mate. What's plans? What brings you here to the Goldie?
Oh, the Goldie. I'm here to talk with you.
Mate, yeah, you're very kind, mate. You're very kind.
Yeah, no, I'm busy, but also it's an honor to be able to spend some time with you and talk shop on the podcast. And
I think my favorite part of these conversations is like the before and afters. Like that little bit, this like what we just went through where we got to sit in the sauna, just like talk shop for 30 minutes, roll 40 minutes, roll and have a little ocean swim. And I feel like, I don't know, and obviously I'm keen to talk to you about it, but it's like a truth box. It's like you have the most. I found I have like the best conversations in there. Yeah,
totally, man. It's just like it's 30 minutes of just like time stops.
Yeah,
you know, and whether you're in there with yourself or you're in there with 2 or 3 or 4 other people, sometimes it can be a bit of a party.
Yeah,
but it's just like you get in the sauna and time stops. You know, and you can just drop in, have a conversation. You know, or just be there with yourself, you know, and my life's pretty hectic right now. Like I got a lot going on, as is the case, like for all of us who are running businesses and, you know, people are busy, and to just have 30 minutes a day or every couple of days where you can just like turn everything off, you know, it's like flight mode on the ground, you know, it's like, there's all the physiological benefits. We're going to talk about that, you know, and all the cellular health benefits and all this stuff, but to just have 30 minutes of nothing.
And my favorite thing about it is that you said like you build it into your routine. Like you were saying, like what does a day look like for you?
Man, at the moment, well, this morning was like a classic, like having a child reminding you that like no matter how good your routine is.
Yeah, gotcha.
So if my day goes as planned, I'm up and the day kind of starts in one of a few ways. I'm going for a run, or do some sort of workout, typically like a CrossFit style thing. I know CrossFit's a bit of a bad word, and I'll do some sort of workout and then I'll jump in the sauna. Maybe I'll finish on the plunge if it's right, you know, not if I've just done a strength workout, I won't. And then I'll get into the day, you know, I'll have an espresso, have some food. And by then my fiance will have woken up and my son Sol will have woken up, and I'll play with him for a bit and chat with Kristen, and then I'll get into work. You know?
Why is it so important for you to do it every day?
It's like first of all, context. I'm not here to like sell saunas.
I know.
It's like a priming thing, you know. Like if you start your day, whether you're saunaing or not, but if you start your day with some physical work, you know, maybe there's some meditation in there or something like that. You put in the right foods in. Like you've kind of looked after yourself for the day, and then whatever else happens after that might go well, might not go well. Doesn't really matter because you've kind of at least met some of your basic needs as a human in the morning first thing.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you said you're here not to sell saunas because because it'd be so easy to be like, oh, it's the guy who owns a sauna company.
Of course he likes them.
Of course, you should buy his. Like,
yeah.
But no, like the reason why I want to have this conversation is because of all the health benefits. Like not only, and I'm sure we're going to get into the real specifics of it all, but even just the performance benefits, like the mental clarity, the community that we've spoken about beforehand offline, and we'll talk about it all. And we're going to try and squeeze it into an hour if we can.
Yeah.
We met at the Whoop event. They relaunched the brand in Sydney earlier this year, and it was a great event. You know, we had breath work and we had the sauna and the ice plunge, and we had a few conversations with some great athletes. And then it was just, I remember seeing the saunas and they were beautiful, and we ended up talking afterwards. But it was a great day, and it brought crew together. And I remember you had a really great speech before it was like your turn to do the sauna and ice bath. And you've spoken about your story, and you were really great. And I'm keen to hear like how you got into it with your family and everything like that. But you said when you took it over from your parents that you told your parents that we don't sell saunas, we sell health and well-being. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Totally, man. I mean, at the time I had grown up, the business, Foundspace was started in 2008, long before saunas were a thing.
Before they were trendy, man.
Yeah, man.
Every man and his dog are in there now.
Literally.
Yeah.
And I witnessed my parents being in business together, and it just seemed like arguments and things all the time. I was like, I don't want to do that. I was studying mechanical engineering, and I'd worked in the business for a bit of extra cash in the previous years in my late teens, but wasn't really interested in being a part of it. And then in the summertime after my first year of uni, my dad said, come and work full time, you know, earn some money and see what we do. Whatever. I was like, cool. And I had to send out by post letters to our customers asking for them to write testimonials. And I started getting these testimonials back. And it was like, I couldn't have told you consciously at the time, but like the penny dropped on a subconscious level. Yeah. And I realized like one lady, she couldn't walk. I can't remember what issue she had with her legs, but it was very difficult for her to walk. Like her husband had to carry her to the sauna each morning once she got it. 3 months after having the sauna, she's walking again. And then she writes me this letter, and she's just climbed like a small hill near where she lives because her circulation's back, you know?
What?
Yeah. So I get this story, and then there was another story. A lady was quite literally sent home to die by her doctor. She was diagnosed with polymyalgia rheumatica, which is this like rare inflammatory condition. You end up seizing up, you can't move, and rigor mortis sets in and you slowly die. It's pretty miserable, right? She buys our sauna on a whim because one of her friends had one who had arthritis, and it helped with her arthritis. She's like in her 70s. And 6 months later, all of her pain's gone. She's still alive today, right? So I'm getting these letters back, and something in my mind is tweeting going, oh, like we're actually changing people's lives here.
How old were you at this time?
I was 21.
So still pretty fresh.
Freshman.
Still figuring it out.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, I'm still figuring.
He's actually got it all. He got it all together.
Yeah. And so, yeah. Long story short, 3 months later, I said to my parents, I'm going to leave uni and I want to come and work here full time because I realized that we weren't just selling a product. Like we're not just selling roof tiles or something. Or like we're actually changing people's lives, helping. Improve their well-being, and it just struck a chord in me, you know. And so I left and started working in the business full time from then. And so
what did it look like? Obviously, coming on board, like was it always your dad's or your family's idea for you to come in and work full time? Was that always their? I want to say their goal, but like how did it come in? And then what were you looking after when you first got into?
Yeah, that wasn't the plan. Like I was studying mechanical engineering, and that's what I was going to go and do. And I was a muso and whatever. Cool. And so my dad initially pushed back. I think deep down he probably wanted me to get involved, but that wasn't kind of the plan at all. And I just started doing marketing. That was my first job there. I was just looking after marketing.
I look at I talk to a lot of crew, and like I love talking to people who are super passionate and super energy, like have a lot of energy around their chosen field or what they want to do. And even talking to you, like we've caught up a few times post that Whoop event. And the way you talk about sauna, like you've been doing this for a long time now, but you've still got such an incredible energy and passion with what you do. Like how do you keep that?
It's a great question. For me, just well-being it's been my life, you know, because that moment was actually quite pivotal. Like what happened after that was it triggered a cascade of changes in my own life, right? Throughout my whole teens, my mum was always lecturing on well-being and looking after yourself and all this stuff. And I didn't really care, you know, and then things started to fall into place. I moved out into an apartment, and I remember it was a brand new apartment, the water stank. Like I could smell the plastic and the fumes on the water. And I called my mum. I was like, "Oh, I think I need one of those water filters that you used to talk about."
Yeah, you started to learn.
Yeah. And then we started fasting and changing our diet and exercising in the morning and all these kind of things. And over a few years, all of a sudden, it was like I had more energy than I'd ever had before, and I was connected more spiritually and all these kind of things. So lots of things changed in my life, and I kept learning that the more you prioritize your well-being, the more my life seemed to improve. Gotcha. You know, and the life of those around me, you know, and things would change. And then at the same time, I'm working in a business where, because saunas weren't trendy and, you know, when I was 22, we were just selling to sick people. So I got to see every day the result of not looking after your well-being for 40 years in a row. Yeah. You know, like, oh, I'm going to end up like that. I don't want to end up like that. You know, hunched over with some sort of chronic pain in my lower back and not energized and in some job I don't want to do. It's like, I don't want to do that.
Did we have the evidence back then to know that sauna was good, or was it just purely based off lived experience?
There was a lot less evidence. Yeah. So the biggest study on sauna is the kids study out of Finland, and I think that was maybe 2015 or something that came out, maybe later. I'm not 100% sure. So there was a lot less evidence back then. There was certainly a lot of experiential evidence. You know, we would have people use our saunas and they would walk out in less pain than when they walked in. It's like, oh, now we know it's because it reduces C-reactive protein, a biomarker for inflammation in the blood. Cool. We understand that now, but we didn't then as much as we do now. And yet people were using these things and they were seeing benefits.
How much is it an education for you? Because I imagine like you would have to be up to date with the studies. Like people come to you, they want to know, how is this actually going to help me? Like, this is what I'm struggling with. Like, how is this going to help me? Like, how big is it educational for you? Like, you'd have to be across it all, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah. So in our, we have an app at Found Space, and where we actually educate people on how to use infrared sauna for specific outcomes that they want to achieve. And it's based around 3 key bodily systems. So the cardiovascular system, the nervous system, and the endocrine system. Right, and understanding how to use different temperatures and different durations to get different outputs from those things. And this is all just through learning the literature and understanding what sauna does, and specifically what infrared sauna does, because it's a bit different to traditional sauna. So for me, it was just, learning as much as I could and applying it myself and actually having that embodied understanding of what's going on.
Can you tell me the difference between infrared sauna and your traditional dry sauna?
Yeah. So the 60-second version is a traditional sauna as the hot rocks heats the air heats the body really, really hot to be able to transfer that heat onto the body. So 80, 90, 100 degrees. Yeah. Infrared sauna heats the body directly. Yeah. So it can be much lower temperature, 45, 55 degrees. Yeah. And because the heat is also going further into the body, it's a form of light, is an infrared sauna. Yeah. That's the short story. So the heat goes in more deeply in an infrared, so the temperature can be lower to get similar physiological benefits. What both saunas are trying to achieve, it's not about the temperature in the cabin, it's about the increase in the core body temperature. Okay. Right. We want to get an increase of 0.8 to 1.2 degrees of our core body temperature. That's when we're in a state of hormesis, and that's when we're going to get the physiological cascade of all the health benefits associated with sauna.
And I imagine the health benefits are going to differ dry, like traditional versus infrared?
Not majorly.
Yeah.
Not majorly.
Oh, really?
No, because the key here is what we're trying to achieve is a state of hyperthermia, which is increasing the core body temperature, right? And so there's 2 different methods of doing that: making some rocks really hot, which then heat the air, which then heat you, or emitting infrared light from a heater, which then heats the body up, right? They both achieve the same thing, just in different formats, right? Now, here's the thing, is that people will say, well, the biggest study ever done out of Finland was using traditional sauna, and a lot of those saunas were, say, 74 degrees, right? And it's like, yeah, well, that's great, but if you actually go into the literature further, 74 degrees was creating the environment for the core body temperature to increase by, say, 1 degree on average. That's what we're actually trying to achieve in a sauna.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And I remember when we were having a sauna before, it's just like, especially in our lives, like we complicate so many things, and it's like, just get hot.
Yeah, man.
Just get hot.
Exactly.
Because you were just in where were you?
Finland.
You're in Finland. You're over there. Can you tell me that story? Like when you're over
man,
there?
Finland was amazing, and we're over there with the biggest sauna company in the world, Harvia, right? And we're in this house that has 4 saunas in it, which already we're like, why are there 4 saunas? I get it now, but at the time it was crazy. And we're in this room. It's like 90 degrees, and they're just pouring the water on the rocks like there's no tomorrow. And
just trying to get it hot. Like.
Well, it was extremely hot, and then it seemed like they were trying to just like burn us or something, you know.
Yeah.
They're all adapted to this super hot thing. And anyway, we just asked them, we said, what are your kind of protocols that you're running? Like, how long do you stay in here? We see it's like 90 degrees. So how long do you stay in? And then you got the frozen lake out there. So when will you go out and get into the lake? How long do you stay in the lake for? You know,
1,000 questions.
Yeah. All this kind of stuff, you know. And then they I'll never forget. His name was David, and he just said, "Are you just staying until you're too hot, and then you just get out?" You know. And it was like, you know,
I guess we just got to get hot, man. We just got to get hot.
Literally, yeah. And yeah, there's protocols and all these things, and people like Andrew Huberman are amazing because they've brought these products to the world in a way that previously hadn't been shone like that, or Rhonda Patrick, for example. But sometimes we overcook it, you know, and sometimes it's like, just get in the sauna and get hot, have a sweat and get out, and you're going to get a lot of benefits.
I love that. But for me, like, I love knowing the ins and outs of it. I do like, even when we came in today, I'm like, oh, like, what do you do? Like how, you know, like it varies. It's like a workout. Like some days I'll do this for recovery. Like I'll lower the temperature and go longer if I just want to do recovery. If I want a real workout, you'll increase the temperature. Yeah. And I love that you're educating people on this. You talked about your blog. You've also got the book, the Alex Tyson Health Supercharged book, which was so great because you actually break it down. You'll see, like, I've got all these highlighted notes, which was really cool because I didn't know you'd written a book. When the sauna was built out the back of my place, I walk in like all excited. There was a little book on the front. I was like, oh, this is sick. But it's not just around sauna. You talk about like health, stress, managing stress, the whole thing. What prompted the book?
The book was, it was really just like, I don't know it all about wellbeing, by the way. I know 0.001% of what there is to know, but based on what I'd seen in the world, and like I said earlier, based on a lot of sick people that I'd met, and based on a lot of the health journeys I'd been on, I was like, well, I feel like there's some fundamental stuff that if you're someone who is just perhaps wanting to get started with well-being and not wanting to be overwhelmed, it's like, here's just some basic stuff, you know. And in that book, I talk about sauna heavily at the start. And then we're just talking about health fundamentals. Like, hey, let's talk about sunlight for a minute. Yeah. It's actually not bad for you. You know, you go and get in it. Yeah. Let's talk about nutrition for a little bit. Let's talk about exercise and just trying to explain it in a way whereby, again, we don't overcomplicate it.
What are the 3, if I was going to say, Alex, what are the 3 best, like, basic fundamentals that I could take out of this book? What would be your top 3?
Good question.
Sauna.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Take sauna out. You're not allowed to say sauna.
I would say get your food sorted, you know, and forget about the labels of what type of diet or whatever or not you're eating. Just eat clean foods, you know, where you know the ingredients that are in it. I would say focus on your sleep. And like, what does that mean? Well, really it means like focus on how you prepare for sleep. Yeah. You know, and understanding that your preparation for sleep actually starts in the morning, you know, and then I would say just move the body. Yeah. You know, like we kind of know this stuff, and I think our generation as well, especially kind of clued onto this stuff, but also sometimes it's easy to forget. Yeah. You know, if you want to live healthy and you want to live longer, just move your body, sleep well, put some good food in.
Does sauna impact our sleep at all?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know I hear like Huberman and Rhonda Patrick say if you have like, and to be honest, I ask that because like I do a sauna before going to bed and I'm having great sleeps. I'm dreaming really well. Like can you run me through like I want to say like the science behind it? Like what is it doing?
Let me give you like a sauna session for sleep.
Yeah.
So sauna session for sleep, you're getting in there, say maybe as the sun's going down, or I guess depending where you live, maybe like 3 hours before you go to bed, right? You want to turn it down in terms of temperature to what you normally go in there. So if you're normally in there at 55, maybe do 50, right? We don't want to go as hot, and we want to go a little bit longer, right? So if you normally do 40 minutes, maybe do 45, or if you normally do 35 minutes, maybe do 45, right? And the reason that we're doing those things is we don't want to cook ourselves, so we don't want to go too hot, and whilst also still being in a very warm room, by going a little bit longer, it gives us more time to down-regulate the nervous system.
Right.
The other thing we want to do, if we have color therapy in our sauna or in your sauna, you've got red light therapy as well in the heaters. So we want to put the red light on.
What does the red light do?
So the red light tells our brain it's the end of the day, it's time to relax.
Sort of like mimicking a sunset.
Exactly. What's the last color we see from the sun? Like it's reds and purples, right? And so it tells our brain it's the end of the day, time to relax, time to start to release melatonin, right? So it starts to get our circadian rhythm kind of clicked into the evening.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're going to have that sauna, you're going to drink some water, and you're going to get out. You're going to have a nice sweat. You didn't go too hard. Like if you're counting down the time at the end of that session, it's too hot.
Yeah.
You know. And then you're going to get out, and then it becomes all about your home environment. Like don't turn all the lights on.
Yeah.
You know, don't have a really big, heavy meal. Don't have really loud music in the house. Right.
I heard something that like because obviously in infrared and sauna, it's heating up our core body temperature. But then just before we go to sleep, how we go to sleep is when our body temperature cools. So if it's naturally hot and then it's slowly starting to cool down. Am I on the right track with that? Have you heard of that?
Yeah. So our circadian rhythm naturally wants to cool the body down in the evenings.
Okay.
This is also why a hot shower before bed can be really good for falling asleep.
Really?
Because you get hot, your body's already in the state of wanting to cool down, right? So then that's what your body does, right? So if you get out of a sauna at nighttime, your body's really hot in the sauna, and what your body's trying to do is trying to cool down. So then you get out, lukewarm shower, chill out for a bit, have a cup of tea, and then go to bed.
I imagine it's the same for a hot bath as well.
Exactly, same
Just
thing.
before.
Yeah, that means you're going to drop the core body temperature once you're in bed.
In contrast to that, if I was to wake up, I want to wake up and I want to go attack the day. What would be a recommended sauna temperature, sort of like the lighting? What would be the best, prototype for a protocol for a morning sauna?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, typically it's hotter, and depending on what you've been up to, maybe it's a little shorter than normal, depending on how much time you have and all those kind of things.
Gotcha.
Yeah, stimulating color like a green or a light blue, something like that.
I always just go red light because someone said that it makes you age slower, and I was like, I need all the help I can get.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, red light's always good.
Yeah.
You know, I use red light in the morning in the sauna if it's before the sun's up.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because I'm just trying to my whole day in terms of lighting, and we can spend a lot of time on lighting, which we currently don't have, but the lighting of the whole day is always just trying to mimic what the sun's doing.
Yeah.
So if I'm in the sauna in the morning and it's like 5 a.m. and the sun's not up because it's winter time in the Sunshine Coast, I'm not going to put a bright light on in the sauna.
Yeah.
I'm just going to have no lights and just the light coming from the heaters, and I'll do that. And then if the sun starts to come up, I'll put a light on. You know, I'm just trying to mimic what the sun's doing.
Gotcha. Just on light, you mentioned light before. When we caught up, when you were here on the Gold Coast last time, we had a beautiful little dinner at Rick Shaw's. Like it was great. But you told me, which was what I think we got onto fasting, and we were talking about fast. Right. And I was like, oh yeah, I'd love to do like a 24-hour fast or a 40-hour fast. And you're like, yeah, like, and I was like, have you ever done one? It's like, yeah. I was like, what's your longest fast? You're like, I did a 30-day fast. Can you tell me about, first of all, how you got and why you wanted to do the 30-day fast? What were the benefits out of it, and what were like the key takeaways from it? Yeah, because there's an incredible story.
Yeah, I was getting into some dudes like health gurus, Tyler Tolman, Lauren Lockman, these kind of guys, and fasting was a thing that came up a lot, you know, and there's a lot of fasting references in the Bible, and people healing from amazing things from fasting. And at the time I was in a period of, I'd cut out all the meat that I was eating, and I was eating very cleanly, mostly raw foods, fruits, very cleansing lifestyle I was living at the time, very detoxifying kind of lifestyle. Certainly wasn't building a lot of muscle. Yeah. And I'd done a lot of juice fasts, and I kept hearing about these water fasts. Water fasts is like the kind of kind of as far as you can go in terms of detoxification and people shrinking tumors and, you know, being remittent of cancer and amazing stuff. And I was drawn to it. I was really wanting to try it. And so I did a 9-day by myself, which was interesting. And then, long story short, decided to go to Costa Rica with Lauren Lockman and do 30 days and 30 nights on water.
That's so wild. But you went with your partner as well?
Yeah, I went with my partner, yeah.
Which is probably great. But so what does it look like? Like, what does a day look like? Because there's no bone broth, it's just water, or what?
Just water. Yeah, no electrolytes, nothing. Like Lauren Lockman's like hardcore. You know, I wouldn't say there's anyone else as hardcore as him. First of all, it's like, why? Well, like when we get into a deep state of ketosis, when we're fasting, like our body literally eats itself. It'll go around and it'll find all of the foreign proteins in the body, right? Tumor cells. It'll just eat them.
Yeah.
You know, it'll regenerate. It'll create stem cells naturally when we're in a deeply fasted state. And I'm talking like 10 days plus. You know, like people are going to Mexico to get stem cells injected. And it's like, or you could let the body do it.
Yeah,
you know, like look at an animal when it's injured. What does it do? It sits down and it sips water.
Yeah.
It doesn't eat. You know, we try and feed our animals food when they're not well. We try and feed our kids food when they're not well. It's like, no, the body needs to heal and we've got to get out of the way. And the best way to do that is to do nothing.
That's so it's so easier said than done.
Totally, yeah.
yeah.
And so we go there and once you're 10 days in, like your energy levels are low.
So you're doing nothing throughout the day?
Literally nothing.
Yeah.
The day looked like this. Wake up. We had a lecture at 10. We'd get our vitals checked after that. And then there was a meditation at 7 p.m. that night. And then it was go to bed. And that was like busy.
Wow.
You know, and in between we were suggested to just lie down with our eyes closed.
During the day?
And rest. That was it.
12 hours a day?
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's what we did. You know, and it gets to the point where the days go quite quickly. And it also gets to the point where like emotional stuff comes up.
I was going to say, you'd be thinking through everything, yeah?
Yeah. You literally, like, you have the space to go through, like, stuff just comes up, whether you want to or not, but you just go through everything that's happened in your life. And you also go through everything that you want to create in your life, you know, and like all the relationships that like, I need to have a conversation with that person.
Really?
You know what I mean? Or I never said sorry to that person. Or I need to tell that person I love them. You know, because when do you ever get the space to literally like, you're not doing a thing. We're not, we weren't watching TV or anything like that. There was no internet there.
You said you weren't on your phone.
No.
You weren't even listening to music yet.
No. Yeah. So we're not consuming anything. So all this stuff can kind of bubble to the surface. So it ended up being this very profound experience.
Are you taking, like you said, you all these people that you want to love and to talk to and tell them that you love them. Are you taking notes? Like, can you write?
Yeah. We were writing notes down and also just talking with each other. And we would go on the internet like once every 4 or 5 days for like 30 minutes and just kind of check in with people.
I'm still alive. I haven't died.
Yeah, haven't cut it. Yeah. I've lost another 4 kilos. But anyway, so yeah, it was an amazing experience. It was life-changing. It was the most extreme thing I've ever done. And I think there's a part in all of us that wants to know what our limits are. Yeah. And at that point in my life, knowing my limits wasn't, say, doing an ultra marathon. It was doing 30 days on water only and testing myself in that way.
What were the biggest takeaways? You said you obviously like, yeah, it would have been incredible, like just the learnings. What was the biggest key takeaway?
I think it's changed over time, you know, as you kind of digest everything that happened. I think we're very stimulated in our lives and we don't often get enough time to integrate things that happen and like kind of sit with stuff that goes on in our life to just kind of, oh, that was actually kind of messed up. I haven't really kind of resolved that yet. I just kind of kept going, you know, so just kind of learning that, yeah, things take time to kind of sit. And at the time I came out of that also, I was very much, and my views have changed now, but I was very much about eating very cleanly. Like we came out of that and we ate fruit only for like a year and a half, you know. Wow. And I went through it with my partner and we joke like if you want to know if you're supposed to be with someone, like do 30 days on water together because your shit will come up and you can work through it. It was remarkable.
But you also, I think from the last conversation, you said you moved, like you moved your lifestyle. You were living in Melbourne at the time. Yeah. You said you I think I'm paraphrasing, but like you need more sunlight or something like that.
Yeah, because we lived in Melbourne at the time. We've been talking about moving up to Queensland, and after that trip, we're like, okay, we're moving. You know, there was just this. I've just always found that when you do something kind of maybe extreme for your well-being, the universe just kind of is like, oh, you're doing something good here. I'll kind of look after you, you know. And just good stuff flowed from that fast for over a year after that. And we had the space to say, oh, we actually want to move, you know. And so we moved, and it was the best thing we ever did. You know, we love living where we live now.
I love that idea of just taking a second to sit back and just kind of reflect, because life gets busy, man. Like I know, like you're incredibly busy at the moment. Like you're bouncing around. You just got back from India. Like you're doing all these things. You've got a 1-year-old at home. You're trying to balance a business and also a family. And I'm similar. Like life's busy, but when you can take just, I think, a couple of weeks. And I don't know the time period, but when I feel like if I can get a weekend of just like no phone, laptop away, I feel so much more refreshed, but also it just gives me like a little bit more perspective of what I want to actually do. And if I'm in line with my values and where I want to go in life. Do you think the same?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. There's always one next thing that we're kind of rolling onto, and especially if you're entrepreneurial and there's something else, you know. And we don't have a lot of time unless we make the time for it to just sit and integrate what's happened and think about where we're at, and do I need a course correction or adjustment, or am I actually just like really stoked with where I am and just enjoy that?
Will you try and build that into your like monthly, yearly routine?
Yeah. Well, the short answer is at the moment, no in the sense of fasting.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like I've fasted a lot and I'm in a building phase of my life right now.
You need a couple more weights, mate. Let's go have a little lift after this. I was going to say you're looking good. I think you're looking great, mate.
Thanks. I'm a little skinny now because I got sick when I was in India with food poisoning. But yeah, I mean, we did another fast year after that. We did 21 days at home, and I was 47 kilos after that.
Yeah, wow.
And now I'm just under 70. And so I'm in a different phase, you know. And yes, having some time, even just like a morning for me, if I just get a couple hours on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning where I can just, you know, even just going for a run and having a bit of space there, I'll take it.
Mate, we could talk about this forever. Like, but I am conscious of time.
Yeah.
Throughout the fast, and we've touched on offline about the connection piece and loved ones and your family, and you're obviously like you're super close to your family. I can see that. I'd love to talk about your dad and your family and probably I know in the sauna you said that like you've obviously like even at the Whoop event you talked about how passionate you are about sauning and how I think you said it was like sauna and ice are the two most powerful products like in the world, but you've seen it firsthand. Yeah. Like you've seen it, and you've also seen the effects of not using it. Could you talk a little bit about like I want to hear about your old man and what happened?
Yeah, man. I mean, my dad, he was always the business guy. You know, my mum was into the well-being and he wasn't. Yeah. And I guess more to the story was at the end of 2016, he called me one day and he's like, I don't know where I am. I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, funny, you know, like whatever, Dad. And he's like, no, I genuinely don't know. And it was like, oh, okay, this is not good. So I said, you're in Mildura, you're there to see your son, Heath. And he started crying on the phone. And then it all kind of came back to him. It's like my mind went blank and so on. And so a few weeks later, we were like, okay, let's go and get him tested, you know. And he was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. And that was 2016, so I think at the time he was like 65. And shortly after that, I said to him, like, you need to let me run the business, because if I just watch you like run yourself into the ground, I'm going to, like, it's not going to be good. And he turned around within a week and he's like, okay, you do that and I'll take a step back. So that was a whole kind of interesting time. And then over the following 7 years, as I'm sure many people listening have had experiences with Alzheimer's, you just slowly watch them disappear, you know, and you have those moments where it's like, I remember that time. It was like the last time he knew my name, you know. It's like, and I remember that time. That was the last time I think he knew who I was, you know. And yeah, it was very motivating, you know. Like I wrote about in my book. Like my dad was he made a lot of mistakes in terms of well-being, you know, and I understand why. But he drank a lot, you know, a couple drinks every night. Like it's not a lot, but almost technically maybe you could be considered an alcoholic. So a few drinks every night. He never slept well, right? And even back when he was younger, he used to take sleeping pills. And we know the effect alcohol has on sleep, right? He never exercised. He never ate good foods, you know, and he was chronically stressed, you know. And so if you're someone who's chronically stressed and you're having a couple of drinks every night and therefore you're not sleeping very well, like if you do that for 25 years, it's kind of carved in stone now. Like you're probably going to be diagnosed with some sort of disease, and the likelihood of it being Alzheimer's or dementia is pretty high, you know, because you spoke about beta amyloid earlier, and it's like if you're not sleeping well and you're not getting into deep sleep, you're not clearing the beta amyloid from the brain. Yeah, exactly. And so we actually saw it on his scans. Actually, it was the sides of his brain were actually starting to shrink in size. Wow. You know, it's kind of a crazy test too. Like they inject this like mildly radioactive substance into your brain, and then they do these scans, and it's pretty eerie. And so, yeah, that was it. And recently he passed away. You know, it was like about a month ago. He died. And
yeah, I'm so sorry, man.
No, of course, that's the way it goes. You know, and yeah, it's just a great reminder, and why I talk about it in my book, and I guess where that. I have this fascination with this question of like, where does drive come from? Because some people have a different amount of drive to others. And I think for me, a large portion of it comes from witnessing what happened with my dad, because he never looked after his well-being, and now he's gone, you know, and it's quite clear, like the way he was living, you know, and there's that saying, which I often get wrong, when it's like genetics load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. And there's some real truth in that, you know, and I got to witness how he was living, and I got to witness what he ended up with, you know, and I believe that it's completely avoidable. You know, it's not just like if your parents or someone in your family has Alzheimer's, or maybe they have heart disease or something like that, that does not mean that you're going to get it, you know, but like, why does obesity run in a family? Because no one runs in that family, you know. It's like,
it's a good joke, man.
But it's legit, you know. And like, as our children just mimic what we do. So of course things run in the family, because generally people end up living the same way that their parents did, and doing the same things that their parents did, you know. And so it's up to us at whatever generation we're in to not pass that on to our kids, you know, and do the work now, you know. So my son, he sees me getting up and going at it at the gym in the morning, you know, and he sees me in the sauna. And right now, I don't think he understands what the hell I'm doing in there, but he will one day, you know, and he'll mimic that. It's like, oh, this is how we do life.
Yeah, bro. You talked about it in when we were having a sauna, that like palliative care, like when they're or in a Alzheimer's home, or when they're at the last kind of guest stage, as you said. I think you said something around like it's like one of the most like, it's the worst place to be in, because you're looking at all these people on like the last stages of their life. Like, I think you said someone like was staring at a goldfish tank, and they were drooling, and it's like, if that's not a driver, or if that's not a motivator to be like, what are the best things that I can do to take care of my health, then there's probably nothing, right?
Yeah. I mean, Tony Robbins comes to mind. It's like, if the pain isn't bad enough, we won't take action, you know? And so I think, especially in Western culture and in Australia specifically, it's kind of the way it works is you get old enough and you get sick enough, and then you just go to a home. Yeah. You know, and so, excuse me, we don't really witness the last years of our parents or of our grandparents. You know, we see them a few times here and there. And so we're kind of missing out on this kind of last bit of the feedback loop. Like, this is where you'll end up, you know, and that can be avoidable too, you know. But we don't get to see it a lot. And I went to see my dad enough to know, like, I don't want to end up here, man. And no one wants to end up there, you know.
I imagine that's like, it's obviously it's such a hard thing. And I'm so grateful that you can speak about it and that you do speak about it, because it is an educational piece. And I imagine that there's so many people who are going to be listening to this, who listen to you talk, and it's like, well, there actually is things we can do. Like there are some practical takeaways that you can do. Like let's talk about the health benefits, especially around sauna, because we were talking about like lowering all-cause mortality, but like something like 20% or something like that, which is all the major diseases. Like what is it? Cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, dementia.
All-cause mortality is like dying from anything.
Yeah.
You know, like not like a freak accident by being hit by a bus, but any form of disease. Right?
Cancers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the likelihood of you dying from anything is reduced by 26% if you sauna 4 or more times a week. Like,
that seems so easy. It seems so easy. We're just getting hot a couple times.
It's a good deal.
I'd make that deal, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get to rest in a hot room and like, you know, not die. It's remarkable, you know, and the likelihood of dying from cardiovascular disease is reduced by something like 40%, something over 40%.
Yeah.
By saunaing 4 or more times a week.
Yeah.
You go in a cold plunge, you build new neurons in the brain. You know.
And break it down for me for the Alzheimer's part of it, because I was telling you before, like brain health is something that I'm super interested about, given my background in concussions and brain injury and I know, well, I don't know for sure that there's a relationship between concussion and Alzheimer's and dementia, but I want to look after my brain, man. Like I want to be good when I'm older, you know? And so I am curious about this, and Alzheimer's and dementia, like what is happening in our brain to firstly cause Alzheimer's and dementia, and then what happens when we start using sauna or when we start incorporating sauna?
Yeah. Well, my understanding, I'm not an Alzheimer's expert, but what I do know is, like we spoke about earlier, it's we get this buildup of beta amyloid in the brain, right? And I believe that clogs up our synapses, so our neurons can't fire and talk to each other as well as they could, right? That's where sleep's really important, because it clears that out of the brain. And there's many other things we can do as well in terms of diet and whatnot. In terms of cold plunge and in terms of sauna, using cold plunge stimulates BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Essentially, we build new neurons in the brain when we use a cold plunge. Yeah. And I believe it's the same with heat as well. So like that's also a good deal. You know, you go in there and you build new brain cells, essentially. That's what a neuron is, right? Yeah. I'll take some new brain cells.
We need as many as we can get.
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly. And so there is a study showing that using or having cold exposure in your life can prevent the onset of Alzheimer's and dementia. And again, like, yeah, I'll take that. You know, and yes, sauna and cold plunge are somewhat connected, and they have similar benefits. Cardiovascular benefits. Having a hot sauna can stimulate human growth hormone when you're doing a workout. I know you wanted to talk about performance a little bit. There's a lot that they can kind of help with.
In terms of like, I'm want to get my parents into the sauna.
Yeah.
Like, and we had the conversation before. It's just like older crew that there can sometimes be a little bit stubborn, and I want my parents to listen to this. Like that's part of the reason why I want to have this conversation today, because I love them. Like I want them to be around when I have kids, you know. And I'm sure that's probably similar to a lot of people who are listening to this podcast as well. It's just like, I know that there's so many great health benefits during sauna, doing ice bath, and obviously the whole thing with diet and holding on to muscle. But it's like, what are the best? How can I get them in here? Like we talked about it before, but how? Like
totally, man.
What are the key things? Because like I just need to, I want them to live for long. Like I want them to be around. Like what are some easy practical tips to convince your parents or some crew who might be a little bit stubborn to come in?
Man, like back in the day, the number one reason clients came and worked with us was because they wanted to reduce pain, right? Inflammation, like especially older generation, there's a lot of inflammation going around. Or even if you're working out all the time, if you're going hard and you're stimulating cortisol because you're doing heavy sets, you're going to have inflammation in the body. And so we actually want it, you know, we want to build muscle, cool. But we also want to manage inflammation if we want to keep going, we want to keep performing. If you want to get your parents in, man, Sauna's been shown to reduce C-reactive protein, which is a biomarker for inflammation in the blood, right? The more C-reactive protein, the more inflammation there is in the blood, right?
And imagine if you're older, you're naturally carrying more inflammation.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct. So did they have like a aching back or something like that?
Sore shoulders, sore backs. Right. Yeah.
Get in there, get the heaters as close to those areas as possible, right? Just 30 minutes. Yeah. If they just give you 30 minutes, right, pay them. Yeah, promise them a beer or something on the other side.
He'll probably get in for that. Anyone who knows my old boy, he'd love a beer.
So just get him in there for 30 minutes, right? Don't cook him. Put him in there at like 47, 50 degrees with some water, right? Get his back, get his shoulders, his lower back in front of the heaters. That heat from the infrareds are going to penetrate. It's going to get the circulation pumping, oxygen-rich blood into the joints, into the muscles. And I guarantee he's going to walk out and he's going to go, oh, I'm feeling a bit looser.
Straight away.
Totally.
But what is it? Is it just like, is it our body just like recovering? Like he's obviously lowering the information. Why are we walking out thinking, because I feel it, like I've done, like I'm doing it. I immediately after a solid gym session, like I'll go in there and then straight afterwards, that night I sleep better, I wake up the next morning, I'm freer, I'm looser. What is it?
You're reducing inflammation in the body and you're also, like, think about what's happening in a sauna. You're getting hot. What's your body trying to do? Trying to cool you down. So how does it do that? Well, it turns on the cardiovascular system, right? Your heart rate increases, right? You start breathing heavier. You get oxygen-rich blood into the joints, into the muscles, right? Yeah. And so think about it. If you've just done a big workout, you've used your muscles a lot, and now you get in a sauna, you're not using your muscles. You often end up in a state of zone 2 cardiovascular workout in the sauna. So you're keeping the blood flowing, right? You're helping take lactate out of the muscles, right? You're keeping your muscles, full of blood, full of oxygen,
Gotcha.
Right? And so then you walk out and it's like you haven't seized up or anything like that.
That's so cool.
You're just loosey-goosey.
We're feeling good. Before we move on to performance, because I do want to touch on performance because it's a mental health and sport podcast and we have a lot of young athletes coming into it. They're
not going to be doing 30-day fast.
I don't think so. Yeah. But in terms of sauna, and say we're looking at parents, crew who might be ranging between 40 to 60, maybe coming up on 70. What are the best things that they're going to get out of sauna? Obviously, like the health benefits that we've spoken about before, but what are the real in time benefits that they're going to see? You said obviously lowering inflammation, they're going to feel better, probably less achy. Is there any can you talk to me around cognitive benefit? Is there anything they're gonna feel straight away? Yeah,
right after a session, they're going to come out, they're going to feel a bit looser. They're also going to have norepinephrine released into the brain.
What's that?
So neurotransmitter, right? And so norepinephrine helps us feel vigilant and awake, but calm, right? It's not like adrenaline where you're just jacked.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why, we had the sauna just before and we came out and you were just like, man, you just feel good after a sauna.
Yeah, man.
That's norepinephrine in the brain.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of dopamine in there as well. But norepinephrine is we're awake, we're alert, we're vigilant, but we're calm. Because we were both saying oh man, there's so much going on. And then after the sauna, it's everything's all good, man.
We're fine, man.
It's all good.
Yeah.
So immediately after a sauna, you're going to feel that. You're going to feel loose in your body. You've just had a good sweat too. So you're going to feel this kind of cleanliness in the skin and you have a nice rinse off and go and get into your day.
Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
Moving into the performance side of things. When I was playing footy, sauna wasn't a huge thing. Yeah. We would do ice baths every day. Yeah. No matter we're doing probably not after gym. We wouldn't do it after a gym session, but any heavy contact session, after any sort of field session where we're doing big Ks, we would always get in the ice bath. But sauna never was really a thing. Yeah. What are the and I from just reading your book and listening to Huberman and Ron Patrick, the way I look at it is increasing cardiovascular and then also increasing muscle mass, or the recovery around after gym. I guess my question is what are the best things that sauna particularly is doing for performance?
Man, just think about it like this. If you use sauna after a workout, it'll allow you to work out sooner afterwards.
The next time?
Correct. In the sense of you may not actually work out sooner, but it just means you'll be able to be at that higher level again. Say you do a huge workout today, chances are you might have some DOMs, tomorrow, right? If you have sauna after that workout, the DOMs will be less. it allows you to stay at that higher level. You know, you're not doing this big workout and then having a couple of days where you're not back at your peak again. You can be at your peak sooner.
Because say if you're doing like high repetition, you might be like doing, you know, sets of 10, 12, 15, whatever. It might be on bench, you might be squatting. And you know that feeling of being sore the next day? Like the next day you can't sit on a toilet. Like, it's that whole thing.
It reduces that, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So like if you use a sauna, regardless of what workout you've done, like just get in the sauna afterwards, just do like 30 minutes. Don't cook yourself. And I keep saying that because the general tendency in sauna is to like just go as hot as you can for as long as you can. Yeah. And that can be not beneficial, right? But if you go in there, have a good sweat, kind of like we did today. Once it got hot, we were kind of like, we're done. You know, you get out and you're done. That's it. You're going to keep that circulation moving in the body, right? You're going to get that lactate out of the muscles, oxygen-rich blood, get the nutrients into the muscles, help them rebuild. You're not going to get that deep tightness the following day. You know? It's going to allow you to keep going.
Do you stretch in your sauna?
Sometimes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because I imagine you probably lose. Probably a great time to stretch, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. If you want to go deep and do some slow breath work when you're in there, for sure.
I used to do some saunas with like Mac Horton, the Olympic swimmer, and Cody Simpson as well. Like they've both got saunas. They got actually Cody's got one. Cody's got a fan sauna. Yeah, great. When Mac first came to the Goldie, he actually built his own like wood fire sauna. It was sick. It was so cool. He like built this whole thing himself. Took longer than he thought it was going to take. Yeah. But he was just like, he's like, this is free gains for me. Yeah. He's just like they're obviously doing huge Ks, and obviously Mac's retired now, and he's actually moved back to Melbourne, which we're very upset about. But he's like, especially when he was competing, he's like, man, I can like, there's only so many kilometers in the pool that I can do. Like my like your shoulders are cooked. Like there's only so much you can do. He'll do like his main set, like 7-8 kilometers, probably plus. I'm probably not even doing that justice. But then he'll come back and we'll like sauna and we'll go through it's like as hard and as long as we can. He's like, man, this is free gains. He's like, this is like that little 1%. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when he says free gains, he means in terms of cardiovascular performance?
I imagine so.
Yeah. Well,
because I asked him, I was like, he's like, what is it about? He's like, I actually don't know the science behind it, but I just know that I'm working harder than everyone else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I mean, look, if you guys are going in there and you're pushing the temperatures and you're going as long as you can, yeah, absolutely. Like your heart rate would have been really increased, right?
For sure. Where we're all like, all four of us, Bowen was in there as well. We were like sitting in there, we're like, who's going to be the first to get out? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just like, come on, we can go like a couple more minutes. And so it's a push, like it's a real push.
Yeah, so your body's working hard. Yeah. You know, your cardiovascular system's going crazy in those moments, you know. It's having to maximize its ability to use oxygen. Yeah. You know, great. Yeah, I'll take those gains. Beautiful. I mean, if you're in a sauna, you can do, like they do this in Finland sometimes. I think even Human has a protocol for human growth hormone. Essentially, it's like, I think it's like 35 minutes in, as hot as you can go, 5 minutes out. And you do that like 6 times in a row.
Is that the increase in growth hormone? Is that what you just said? Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
So it's like, that's intense. Like if you go as hot as you can go, 35 minutes and then 5 minutes out.
Just letting your body naturally cool down, not jumping in ice or anything?
You can if you want.
Can even jump in,
okay. And you do that like 6 times in a row, man. That's a lot. That's a lot of sauna. It's a lot of sweat, a lot of electrolytes being used. Your body's working, you know.
So what happens when we increase growth hormone? Like, what are we going to see? Like, what are the practical effects?
Well, my understanding is you're going to build muscle. That's it.
Yeah, okay.
You know, and I also know that if you do that in a fasted state, it's going to increase human growth hormone even more.
I think you said that in your book. Yeah. Because that's what I'm starting to implement. Yeah. Like, so I'll if I'm working from home, and I hope my manager's not listening to this because like I'll go at lunchtime in my break. But if you like, I'll try and fast. Like at the moment, since reading a book, I'll fast till probably like 11, 12. Yeah. Crank that thing as hot as it can go up to like 70. But I'm only doing one. I'm probably only doing like 20 minutes, if that. Sometimes 15 because I'm cooking. Yeah. But I want to do that more.
Great.
But that's the play.
Push it, man. Yeah, but this is the thing with sauna, and especially with infrared, is you can use it in so many different ways. You know, in that instance, you're pushing yourself, you're going hard. Maybe you're on a day off and you're not doing a workout and you're just really pushing the body, you're getting that cardiovascular happening and away you go. you know. And then there's other days where it's like, I just need down regulation, rest, rejuvenate. I'm in there at 47. I'm doing 45 minutes and I'm chilling out.
Because the recovery is probably another one that I want to talk about, especially for athletes. Like you say, you talk around recovery and you'll lower the temperature and you do it over a longer period of time. Why do you do that?
Yeah. Nervous system.
Okay.
You know, like what I try and convey and what we try and convey in our app is like, you got to learn how to use the sauna and the nuances depending on what you've done. You know, like if I've just ran 20 Ks, sometimes I might not even get in the sauna, you know, or if I do, it's like 5 minutes just whilst I kind of like regulate my breath down. I keep the circulation going for a bit, but I've already sweated and worked pretty hard, you know, so I'm done, you know, and then other days it'll be different, you know, so depending on what workout you've done, like if you've really pushed the weight and you've gone hard, and you're feeling like you've still got more in the tank, you might jump in the sauna and go really hot, do half an hour and push it, you know.
Yeah, gotcha.
And then other days you won't, you know. It's like, actually, no, I'm done. I just want to get that passive cardiovascular happening, that passive kind of recovery. And
I think around like run clubs, like obviously run clubs is such like a big fad and trendy thing at the moment. So say if we're training for a marathon, we do like a long run on a Saturday.
Yeah.
That next day,
Yeah.
I imagine that's probably such a beneficial time to do it. Yeah.
100%.
Inflammation's high.
100%.
You probably want to recover. That's probably a great time to do it.
And you also want to keep using your cardiovascular system because you're trying to train cardio.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So in that case, if you've just done a big run on a Saturday and you're having a sauna session on a Sunday morning, like get in there for a while and have it pretty hot.
Beautiful, man.
You know what I mean? Work the body, you know, get that cardiovascular system doing its thing.
Man, there's so many there, and that's what I mean. Like, there's so many intricacies of this conversation that I'm so happy that we went down. And I'm looking at my notes here, and I'm just like, oh, we're like halfway through it, which is nice, man. But I've loved this conversation. If there was one thing that you think we didn't cover today that is super important, what do you think that is?
Good question. I think what we didn't talk about a lot, but it's kind of been sprinkled in there is the mental health element of sauna and the community element.
Yes.
Because, there's all these great physiological benefits and gains and things. But like I said at the start, to just have 30 minutes of just like a conversation with a mate, maybe you're in there with your partner or something like that, and the kids aren't knocking on the door and your notifications aren't going off. That's huge, man. One of our, I guess, famous, I can't share her name, but
you can if you want.
No. I might get in trouble.
No, you're good.
But she reached out to me the other day. She has one of our products and she said, Alex, I can't thank you enough for, us being able to have one of your saunas. And she said, what it's done for my mental health. And I know she's struggling with her mental health because she talks about it a lot. She's like, what it's done for my mental health is like more than anything else.
That's so good.
To just have that sauna and I can go in there and I can just sweat and just chill out for a bit. She's like, it's been huge for me. And we did a survey a few years ago with our customers. It's like, what do you like most? And I think 50% of people said like the mental health aspect.
Bro, that's so huge.
Yeah.
Well, it's community.
Yeah.
It's building community. And mate, it's got to feel great for you, like getting that feedback. Yeah. Like again, obviously super grateful to have a found space sauna in my backyard. And like I said, my favorite thing in the world is training with mates. But that's training with mates. That's like it's like every day. I'll message someone like, "What's doing? Let's go for a sauna." And it's like a truth box. Like me and Nico Hines, he was Dally M of the NRL a 2 years ago. We did a podcast and we talked about saunas. I'm pretty sure maybe it was offline, but he's like he has one at his place. It's like a truth box, man. He's like, I don't know what I don't know what it is about it, but when you're in a sauna with someone, you might be working hard. You might have like this shared sort of discomfort. So you can just talk about anything. Marley Silva, we just did we did 150 Ks over 3 days for the Mark Hughes Foundation.
Amazing.
And again, like you're just walking with crew and you're just getting to know people and you're sharing like most wild things about yourself just because you're walking with them. And Marley said the exact same thing. He's good friends with Nico. She's like, when I'm, it's like a thing that they do is that whenever they're not upset, but if there's something that they need to share, they're like, do you want to go for a sauna? And then the other person just knows like, yeah, okay, 100%. Yeah. And then they'll just debrief, which is so cool, man.
Man, in Finland, they've got that dialed.
Yeah.
Like if there's beefs going on in business or in sporting teams, it's like sauna.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Because they just know. It's just like, I think one of the best ways to build relationships is to go through adversity with said person or group of people, right? Because you go through that and you come out the other side and you're all stronger for it. And I think sauna is a form of that. You know, you go in there and you go really hot if you want, and you sweat and you're both working together. And especially in European countries, you're naked. It's just honest.
Yeah.
You know, here I am, there you are.
Takes the status out of it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Let's just be humans together and just, you know, if we have a beef, let's talk about it, or whatever it is, let's just chat. And
it just I don't know. Yeah, I love what you said around that. It takes all the walls down, and you can be just so open and honest and vulnerable about anything that's going on.
Yeah.
And I've found, and even in these conversations, I've found that when I'm more vulnerable with crew and talk about my own struggles, they're more likely to be vulnerable with me.
Yeah.
And talking about it, and like this is the whole reason we're having this podcast, is to encourage conversation. And what are the key takeaways that we can learn? And also just getting things off your chest. Like there's a place for psychologists, there's a place for therapists, but talking to a mate during a sauna, one of the greatest things ever.
Amen, man. Amen.
Alex, brother, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for coming in today. Thank you for the sauna. Thank you for just being a part. Like I when we caught up, when I first met you, and then the multiple times afterwards, I just know like crew's going to hang around, and people are going to be in your life for a little while. And I've really enjoyed learning off you. Like I've learned a lot from you in these last couple of times. So, mate, thank you for everything you're doing in not only the sauna space, but just in like the health and well-being space. I think you've got such an incredible story. I'm super appreciative that you're willing to share these stories, and because it's not easy, man. It's fucking hard. Like, and I am just so appreciative. So thank you, bro. Thank you for coming.
It's mutual, man. Yeah, appreciate you.